The alien queen promised marriage if I could calm her baby, and I was speechless. Captain Ethan Hale stood at the observation deck of the human flagship, the USS Horizon, watching the swirling nebulae outside. His mission in the Sci-Fi system was supposed to be a simple peacekeeping mission, establishing diplomatic relations between the humans and the Xiphorian coalition. The Xiphorians were an ancient and powerful alien species, known for their advanced technology and fierce loyalty to their queen. Earth had been trying to forge a stronger alliance with them for years, but so far, the Xiphorians had shown little interest. The galaxy was full of strange beings, but the Xiphorians were unlike anything Captain Hale had ever encountered. It was late in the evening, and he was on his way to the summit, a critical event that could determine whether humans and Xiphorians could work together in peace. As Ethan prepared himself for the negotiations, a voice interrupted his thoughts. "Captain Hale, the Xiphorian delegation has arrived. It's time." The voice of his communications officer, Lieutenant Mara Jensen, crackled through his earpiece. Ethan straightened his jacket and nodded, his thoughts racing. The summit was being held aboard the Grand Xiphorian diplomatic cruiser, a massive ship that could hold an entire fleet within its sprawling halls. The ship itself was a marvel of alien engineering, sleek, dark, and intimidating, its design unlike anything humanity had ever seen. It was a ship that spoke of power, of ancient rulers whose influence stretched far beyond what any one species could imagine. As he made his way to the shuttle bay, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that something unexpected was waiting for him. The Xiphorian queen, Vorda, was known to be an unyielding leader, ruthless in her decisions and fiercely protective of her people. But there was a rumor about her, a whisper among the diplomats. She had a child, a baby, that she guarded with an almost unnatural ferocity. The baby's presence was kept hidden from the public, and very few had seen the child. The shuttle ride to the diplomatic cruiser was brief, and soon Ethan found himself stepping onto the Xiphorian vessel. The interior was just as imposing as the exterior, with walls made of polished black metal that reflected a strange glow from the nearby stars. Xiphorian guards stood at attention as he walked through the corridors, their armored forms towering over him. Ethan was escorted into a grand hall where the summit would take place. The room was vast, with an enormous table at the center. Around the table sat representatives from various alien factions, their faces cold and calculating. But despite the diplomatic tension in the air, Ethan's attention was drawn to one thing, the Xiphorian queen herself. Queen Vorda was seated at the head of the table. She was tall, taller than any human he had ever met, and her presence was so commanding that it felt like the entire room bent toward her. Her features were alien, with silver skin and long, dark hair that cascaded down her back. Her eyes glowed with an intense, golden hue, and there was an air of authority around her that made even the seasoned diplomats shift uncomfortably. But what caught Ethan off guard was what she held in her arms. Wrapped in a soft, shimmering blanket, the baby Xiphorian was no ordinary child. Its skin was a pale shade of violet, with delicate, almost translucent wings on its back. The child was crying, its shrill, high-pitched wails echoing off the walls of the room. Despite the Xiphorians' stoic faces, the tension in the air was palpable. Queen Vorta did not seem upset. In fact, her face remained calm, but her hands tightened around the baby, and there was a flicker of something deep in her eyes, an emotion Ethan couldn't quite place. The room fell silent as the queen addressed the gathering. Her voice was deep, rich, and powerful, a tone that commanded attention. "We gather here today to discuss an alliance between our people," Queen Vorda began, her gaze sweeping over the room. "But there is one thing I must address before any agreements can be made." Ethan's heart skipped a beat. The queen's words held weight, and everyone in the room was on edge, waiting to hear what she would say next. "I have a task for one of you," she continued, her gaze locking with Ethan S. "The human diplomat, you." Ethan froze, all eyes turned toward him. He had prepared for many things in this summit, but he had not prepared for this. "Me?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. Queen Vorda nodded. "Yes, you." Her tone was firm. "I will offer you a challenge. If you succeed, I will grant you an extraordinary gift, something that no one else in this galaxy could ever offer." Ethan's curiosity piqued, but before he could respond, she stood up, cradling the baby in her arms with surprising gentleness. "I have a child," she said, her voice still calm but tinged with something deeper. My child is in distress, and no one here can calm them. Not even my own people. But you, human diplomat, you are different. You are said to possess an empathic nature. If you can calm my child, I will offer you a great honor. Ethan's mind raced as he tried to process what she was saying. A child, distress. What could he possibly do to help? He wasn't a parent and he had no experience with alien infants. The Queen's eyes softened, and for a moment she almost seemed vulnerable, though it was quickly masked by her royal demeanor. I promise you, she said, her voice quieter now. If you can succeed, I will offer you my hand in marriage, and an alliance between our people will be assured. Your future will be secured. The room fell into stunned silence. The Queen's offer wasn't just a gesture of gratitude, it was an incredibly powerful political move. Marriage to the Queen would solidify Earth's place among the stars. An alliance with the Xiphorians would change the course of history. The implications were staggering, but Ethan couldn't shake his disbelief. A marriage, to her, and all for calming a child, it seemed impossible. The baby's cries grew louder, and Ethan's thoughts were interrupted by the sound of the child's wails. He looked at Queen Vorta, her eyes still locked on him, waiting for a response. Despite the absurdity of the situation, something in Ethan stirred. He had never backed down from a challenge before, and though he wasn't sure how he could help, he knew one thing for certain. This was his chance to prove himself, to show that humanity could be more than just another species in the galaxy, that they had something unique to offer. He nodded slowly, taking a step toward the Queen and her child. I'll try, he said, his voice steady despite the chaos in his mind. Queen Vorta didn't say a word, but she handed the baby over to him with surprising gentleness. Ethan took the child into his arms, feeling the weight of it. The baby was warm, its skin smooth, almost delicate. It stared up at him with large, glowing eyes, and for a moment there was a connection, a flicker of something that passed between them. The baby's cries softened slightly, but it was still distressed. Ethan instinctively began to rock the child, trying to soothe it. His mind raced as he tried to think of what to do. He had no knowledge of Xiphorian infants, but he knew the basics of calming a distressed child, soft words, soothing motions. But there was something different about this baby. Its energy felt different, like it wasn't quite of this world. Ethan took a deep breath and began humming a gentle melody, a simple tune from Earth that his mother had sung to him when he was young. He hoped it might help, even though he had no idea if it would work on an alien baby. To his surprise, the baby's cries began to slow. Its body relaxed and it made a soft, cooing sound as it snuggled into his arms. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. Could it be? Could he actually be calming the child? The room was silent now, all eyes on him. Even Queen Vorta watched, her expression unreadable. Slowly, the baby's eyes closed and its breathing steadied. Ethan stood there, stunned. He had done it. He had actually calmed the Xiphorian Queen's child. Queen Vorta's gaze softened as she took the baby back into her arms. You have done what none of my people could, she said, her voice filled with respect. For that, you have my gratitude. But her next words were what made Ethan's heart race. And now you must keep your word. I offer you the gift I promised, an alliance, a marriage. Ethan stood frozen. This was not a simple victory. It was a political game, and he had just made a move that would change the course of history. But how would he respond? Ethan stood in the grand hall of the Xiphorian cruiser, his heart racing in his chest. He had done it. He had calmed the Queen's child, a task no one else had been able to do. Yet, instead of feeling triumphant, he was overwhelmed by the weight of what had just happened. The Queen's promise of marriage still echoed in his mind, a surreal offer that seemed to hang in the air, heavy with political and personal consequences. The room was silent, save for the soft breathing of the baby in Queen Vorta's arms. She gazed at Ethan with an unreadable expression, her golden eyes sharp and focused. The delegates around the table, still stunned by the turn of events, exchanged uncertain glances. This was not how they had expected the summit to go. Queen Vorta, ever the queen, regained her composure first. She stood, her towering figure casting a shadow over the assembly. You have done something remarkable, Captain Hale, she said, her voice carrying a deep, almost hypnotic resonance. You have calmed my child when no one else could, and now, as promised, I offer you my hand in marriage. Ethan's stomach twisted. He had never felt more unprepared for a situation in his life. This was not what he had signed up for. His mission had been simple: negotiate a peaceful alliance between humanity and the Xiphorians. He hadn't expected to be standing in front of a powerful alien queen, holding her baby, and being offered a political marriage in exchange for his success. I don't know what to say, Ethan replied, his voice unsteady. The room seemed to close in around him, the weight of the queen's offer pressing down on his shoulders. What was he supposed to do now? He was a diplomat, not a royal consort. This was no small matter. It wasn't just a marriage proposal. This was a chance to solidify Earth's place in the galaxy, to gain the Xiphorians as allies. But was he really willing to give up his freedom, his autonomy, for such a powerful alliance? Queen Vorta tilted her head, studying him closely. "You don't have to answer immediately," she said, her voice softening slightly. "But know that I am serious. This is not a request I make lightly. My child is the key to our future and the future of my empire. If you choose to accept, Earth will stand at my side. We will rule together. I will ensure that humanity is no longer a lesser power in the galaxy." Her words hung in the air, thick with promise and pressure. Ethan could feel the eyes of everyone in the room on him. The other delegates who had been silent so far began to murmur among themselves. He could see the interest in their eyes, the way they regarded him now as someone with the power to change the course of history. It was a heady feeling, but one that came with consequences. "I appreciate your offer, Queen Vorta," Ethan said carefully, trying to keep his voice steady. "But I need time to consider it. This is a decision that will affect not just me, but my entire people." Queen Vorta regarded him for a long moment, her golden eyes narrowing slightly. "Of course," she said at last, her tone unreadable. "You may take all the time you need, but understand this. My offer is not one that will remain forever. If you refuse, the consequences will be grave for your people." The room fell silent again, the tension palpable. Ethan could feel the weight of her words pressing down on him. He wasn't just considering his own future. He was considering the future of humanity. The alliance with the Xiphorians could change everything. It could give Earth access to technologies and resources far beyond their current capabilities. It could secure their place in the galaxy. But at what cost? Queen Vorta took a step back, cradling her child in her arms once more. The baby, now quiet and content, snuggled against her, its violet skin glowing faintly in the dim light. For a moment, Ethan thought he saw a softness in the queen's expression, a fleeting glimpse of something human. But it was gone as quickly as it appeared, replaced by the regal mask she wore so well. "Let us proceed with the summit," Queen Vorta said, her voice once again commanding. "We will discuss the future of our alliance, but know that your decision will be a part of that future." Ethan nodded, still trying to process everything. He followed the Queen's lead as she turned to face the table where the other delegates had gathered. The rest of the summit continued in a blur. Talks were held, proposals were made, and the atmosphere, though tense, remained civil. But in the back of Ethan's mind, the offer loomed over him like a dark cloud. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was standing at a crossroads, one that could determine the fate of not just himself, but his entire species. Hours passed, and the summit finally came to a close. The delegates left the room, each one moving quickly to their respective ships, no doubt eager to return to their home worlds. Ethan remained behind, his mind spinning with thoughts of the Queen and her offer. He needed answers, but he wasn't sure where to look for them. He found himself walking through the halls of the Xiphorian cruiser, lost in thought. The sleek metallic corridors seemed to stretch endlessly before him, and the hum of the ship's engines was the only sound that filled the air. Ethan had never felt more alone. As he wandered, he stumbled upon a small, quiet chamber. The door was open, and inside he saw Queen Vorta standing by a window looking out at the stars. The baby was asleep in her arms, nestled comfortably against her chest. For a moment Ethan hesitated, unsure whether he should intrude. But something in the Queen's posture, the way she stood there, so still and yet so powerful, compelled him to enter. She turned as he approached, her eyes sharp but not unkind. "Captain Hale," she said, her voice quieter now, "I didn't expect you to seek me out." "I need answers," Ethan said, his voice low. "I don't know what to think. Your offer. It's not something I can just accept. It's too much. I don't know if I'm ready for this." Queen Vorta regarded him for a long moment, her gaze unreadable. "No one is ever ready for something like this," she said softly. "But sometimes we are forced to make decisions that change everything. You will be asked to choose between your people and yourself." "That is the price of power," Ethan's mind raced. "But why me? Why offer this to a human? You don't know me." I know enough, she replied. You were the only one who could calm my child. That alone speaks of something rare in you, something that cannot be ignored. Ethan didn't know how to respond. He had never felt like he had anything special about him, just a man doing his job. But now, standing before the Queen of the Xiphorians, he realized that his actions had led him into a situation he could never have predicted. Do you think I'm just another pawn in your game? Ethan asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Queen Vorta's eyes softened, if only slightly. I don't see you as a pawn, she said quietly. But I do see you as a key, the key to a future none of us can fully understand yet. Ethan was silent for a long time. He didn't know what the right decision was, but he knew one thing. This was far more than just a simple diplomatic mission. The fate of humanity and the galaxy could rest on the choice he would have to make. He only hoped he could make the right one. Ethan sat alone in his quarters aboard the Xiphorian cruiser, staring out at the stars beyond the large viewport. The darkness of space stretched infinitely before him, broken only by the distant glimmer of faraway stars and planets. His mind, however, was far from peaceful. Instead, it was a whirlwind of questions, doubts, and conflicting emotions. The offer had been clear: marriage to Queen Vorta in exchange for an alliance between Earth and the Xiphorian Empire. The consequences of such a decision were monumental. If he accepted, he could secure Earth's place among the most powerful species in the galaxy. The alliance would give humanity access to technology far beyond anything they had ever dreamed of, and they would be protected under the Xiphorian banner. The possibilities were endless, but at what cost? Ethan wasn't just considering his own future, he was considering the future of his people. He was a diplomat, a representative of Earth, but that didn't mean he had to sacrifice everything for the sake of politics. Marriage to an alien queen wasn't just a personal choice. It was a political move, one that would shape the course of human history. Was he willing to pay that price? He could still feel the weight of Queen Vorta's gaze when she had made her offer. Her golden eyes had been intense, not with malice but with purpose. She hadn't made the offer lightly. Ethan had felt that. She had expected him to respond right away, to seize the opportunity with both hands, but he couldn't. His mind couldn't keep up with the enormity of what she had said. The more he thought about it, the more complicated the situation became. Queen Vorta wasn't just a monarch. She was a mother, a ruler, and a leader in a galaxy where power meant survival. Her child, the baby he had calmed earlier, was no ordinary infant. There was something about that child, something that made Ethan wonder if he was part of something far greater than any of them had realized. The baby was the heir to an ancient empire, the key to its future. And it seemed that Ethan had somehow earned the Queen's trust in a way no one else had. As he sat there, staring into the depths of space, there was a knock at the door. Ethan turned and stood, surprised by the interruption. He hadn't expected anyone. "Come in," he called, his voice steady, though his mind was anything but. The door opened, and Lieutenant Mara Jensen stepped inside. She looked around the room before meeting his eyes. "Captain, we need to talk." Ethan nodded, stepping aside to let her in. "About the summit." Mara glanced at the empty chairs and then back at him. "About the Queen and your decision," Ethan sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I don't know what to think. She's offered me something that could change everything for Earth. An alliance with the Xiphorians, access to technology, military power, resources beyond our wildest dreams." "And the price?" Mara asked, raising an eyebrow. "Marriage," Ethan replied flatly. "To her, I'm supposed to marry Queen Vorta in exchange for the alliance." Mara didn't seem shocked, though Ethan couldn't tell if that was because she had anticipated it or if she was just trying to keep her emotions in check. "That's a pretty steep price," she said after a moment of silence. "But I can see why she'd offer it. The Xiphorians value strength. You calmed her child. You've earned her respect, if not her trust. She's not a queen who gives away her power easily." Ethan nodded. "I get that, but this isn't just about power. It's about me, my life. I never thought I'd be put in a situation like this." Myra leaned against the wall, crossing her arms. "It's not easy, I know, but you have to think about the bigger picture. This could be a turning point for humanity. An alliance with the Xiphorians would elevate us from a fledgling species to a galactic power. We'd be able to stand alongside the strongest in the galaxy." "I know," Ethan muttered, his thoughts once again turning to the potential consequences of his decision. "But at what cost? I'm not ready to throw away my life like that, to become part of some political marriage to a queen I barely know." Mara's gaze softened. I understand, but this isn't about you as a person. It's about Earth's future. It's about your duty to your people. Ethan clenched his jaw, frustration building. That's the thing, Mara. I'm not sure what my duty is anymore. Is my duty to my people to protect them from making mistakes? Or is it to lead them into a new era, even if that means sacrificing everything for the greater good? I'm torn between those two choices. Mara didn't answer immediately. She stood in silence, considering his words. Finally, she spoke, her voice gentle but firm. You're not alone in this, Ethan. You're not the only one who has to make tough decisions. But you have something that none of the others have. You've been given an opportunity, a rare one, the kind that comes once in a lifetime. You're not just a diplomat anymore. You're part of something far bigger. Ethan's eyes met hers, searching for the meaning behind her words. What do you mean? I mean that you've been given a chance to shape history, to decide the fate of humanity and perhaps the galaxy. That's not something everyone gets. You have the power to secure a future for Earth if you're willing to take it. But it's your choice, Captain. No one can make it for you. The weight of her words sank in, and for a long time neither of them spoke. Ethan felt the gravity of the decision weighing heavily on his chest. There was no turning back from this. Whatever he chose, it would change everything. There was no middle ground. If he accepted, he would have to give up so much. His freedom, his personal life, his independence. But if he refused, humanity could lose its chance to gain an alliance with one of the most powerful species in the galaxy. I'll have to meet with her again, Ethan said finally, his voice steady despite the turmoil inside. I need to understand her better. I need to know what this alliance really means, what it would really cost. Mara nodded. That's a good idea. But remember, the Queen is a ruler, not just a mother. She's playing a game and you're part of it now. She might not give you all the answers you want. Ethan exhaled sharply, his mind spinning. I know, but I can't make this decision without more information. I have to know if this is the right choice for me, for Earth, for the galaxy. Mara gave him a small smile. You'll figure it out. Just remember, whatever happens, you're not alone in this. We're all behind you. With that, Mara left the room, leaving Ethan alone once more with his thoughts. The silence seemed to swallow him as he stared out at the stars, the enormity of the decision weighing down on him. He wasn't just a human diplomat anymore. He was caught in a web of intergalactic politics, and his next move would determine the future of Earth. He didn't know how he could make such a decision. How could anyone? He had to trust his instincts, trust in his duty to his people. But there was so much at stake. He had to be careful. One wrong move, one mistake, and everything could unravel. Ethan's thoughts were interrupted by the soft chime of his communicator. He checked the display, an urgent message from Queen Vorta. His heart skipped a beat. It was time. The Queen was ready to meet again. Taking a deep breath, Ethan stood up, straightening his uniform. He couldn't put it off any longer. The moment had come. He had to face Queen Vorta again, and this time he would have to make a choice. The call came just as Ethan had finished preparing himself for the hardest conversation of his life. Queen Vorta's message appeared on his communicator, a direct summons for him to meet her once again. The message was short, just a few words. I await you in the royal chamber. Come prepared to speak. It was clear that this was no casual conversation. It was the moment of reckoning. Ethan exhaled slowly, his fingers hovering over the communicator for a moment longer before he accepted the call. The screen flickered and then steadied, revealing the striking image of Queen Vorta. She was seated in an imposing chair at the center of a vast, luxurious chamber, the walls adorned with rich tapestries depicting the history of her people. She looked every bit the ruler she was, regal and untouchable, but her eyes, those intense, golden eyes, were softer than before. Captain Hale, she said, her voice calm but carrying an underlying command. I trust you are prepared to give me your answer. Ethan didn't immediately respond. Instead, he studied her, noting how the soft glow from the room reflected off her silver skin, the faint movements of her child resting peacefully in her lap. The baby, so quiet and serene now, was a symbol of everything at stake. If he accepted, he would be linked to this powerful woman, to her child, and to her empire. If he refused, he risked losing the chance to secure Earth's future as a galactic power. I've been thinking about your offer, Ethan began, his voice steady but filled with the weight of the decision. A lot. The Queen didn't interrupt. She simply waited, her gaze fixed on him, waiting for him to say the words. I have to be honest, Ethan continued. I never expected this. I never thought I would be standing here, being asked to make such a monumental decision. You've offered me something that could change everything for my people. An alliance with the Xiphorians, your empire, your strength, it would give humanity the chance to rise beyond what we are now. Queen Vorta's lips curled into the faintest of smiles. You understand, then, the significance of this choice, but I sense that you are still uncertain. It is not just an alliance that I offer you, Captain. It is a partnership, one that will bind us and our people together. You would stand by my side, not just as an ally, but as my consort, my equal. Ethan shifted uncomfortably. The idea of being her equal, her partner in ruling, made his stomach churn. There was power in that, yes, but there was also sacrifice. The more he considered it, the more he felt like he was losing something, something intangible yet important. His identity, his autonomy, the life he had known on Earth. I'm not sure I can be the man you need me to be, Ethan said quietly. I'm a diplomat. I've always believed in negotiation, in finding common ground. I never signed up to be a ruler or to be married into an empire. Queen Vorta regarded him with a thoughtful expression, her golden eyes softening slightly. You are not the first to feel such hesitation. Many before you have struggled with the weight of power. But you must understand, Captain, that power is not a burden for the weak. It is for those who can stand tall, who can make decisions that affect not just themselves but an entire people. I offered you this because I believe you have the strength to do it. Ethan's thoughts swirled. He couldn't deny that the Queen's words made sense. She was right about one thing. This was a decision that could shape the future, not just for Earth, but for the entire galaxy. He had the chance to change everything. And yet there was something inside him that felt resistant. What if he wasn't cut out for this? What if he wasn't the right man for such a powerful responsibility? I've seen your people, Queen Vorta, Ethan said, his voice growing more thoughtful. I've seen the strength of your empire, the loyalty of your warriors, and the respect you command. But I've also seen the cost of that strength. There's a certain kind of life that comes with this power, isn't there? One where personal freedoms are sacrificed for the greater good. You are astute, Captain, Queen Vorta said, her voice quiet but intense. Yes, there is a price to power. There always is. But there is also a reward. The question you must ask yourself is whether you are willing to pay that price, not just for yourself, but for your people. It is not just about me or about you, it is about the future we can build together. Ethan remained silent for a long time, the weight of her words pressing heavily on him. He could feel the pull of her offer, the allure of the power and influence it promised. But there was also a deep unease in him, a sense that something important would be lost if he took this path. The future of Earth, of humanity, could be secured, but what would he lose in the process? I don't think I can be what you want me to be, he said finally, his voice almost a whisper. Not in the way you expect. Queen Vorta's eyes darkened slightly, and for a brief moment, Ethan wondered if he had made a mistake. But then she stood, the regal air around her commanding attention. It is not for you to decide who you will be, Captain. It is for you to decide who you will become. Her words stung. They held a truth that cut through Ethan's defenses. He had spent so much of his life believing that his choices defined who he was, that his actions would always determine his path. But now, faced with the Queen's offer, he realized that some decisions were far beyond personal choice. This was a matter of fate. He stood up, feeling the weight of her gaze pressing down on him. I don't know if I can make this decision alone, he said, his voice quieter now. I've been thinking about this for days, and I still don't know what the right choice is. Queen Vorta's expression softened, and for a brief moment, the walls between them seemed to lower. You are not alone, Captain. You are not the first to be in this position. The path you walk will be one of great challenge, but also one of great opportunity. But you must make the decision yourself. No one else can choose for you. Ethan looked at her, seeing the weight of centuries of power in her eyes. He had never imagined that a single decision could feel like this, like it would shape not just his future, but the future of everyone he cared about. I will give you time, Queen Vorta said, her voice steady again. But not forever. You must decide, Captain Hale. I cannot wait for you to ponder this indefinitely. My people need a leader, and I have chosen you. Ethan felt a pang of guilt and uncertainty. He didn't want to disappoint her. He didn't want to disappoint his people. But could he really accept what she was offering? Could he truly bind himself to her in such a way? The weight of her offer was unbearable, and yet, in the silence of the room, Ethan knew that he had to make a choice. He had always been a man of action, a diplomat who believed in solving problems through communication, understanding, and compromise. But this wasn't something that could be solved with words. It was a choice that would define everything. He wasn't just choosing an alliance. He was choosing the kind of person he would become. "I'll need more time," he said finally. "I can't make this decision now." Queen Vorta's gaze remained steady, but there was a flicker of something in her eyes, a trace of impatience, perhaps. But she nodded, her expression softening ever so slightly. "You have until the next gathering. After that, my offer stands, and the consequences will be clear." With that, the transmission ended, leaving Ethan standing alone in his quarters once again. The weight of the decision seemed to double as the screen went dark. There was no easy answer to this. But one thing was certain: whatever he chose, it would change everything. Ethan's fingers hovered over the communicator for a long moment, but he didn't make the call. He needed more time, he needed to think. But he knew, deep down, that time was something he didn't have much of. The future of Earth, and perhaps the galaxy itself, depended on the choice he would make. The next few days blurred together. Ethan couldn't shake the weight of Queen Vorta's offer. Every moment he spent aboard the Xiphorian cruiser felt like a countdown to something inevitable. The corridors of the ship seemed to stretch endlessly, each turn and corner reminding him of the magnitude of the decision that loomed before him. The pressure was suffocating. He felt as though the entire galaxy was watching him, waiting for him to make his move. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the baby, the quiet, violet-skinned child in Queen Vorta's arms. That child had the power to reshape the future. It was no longer just about an alliance between Earth and the Xiphorians. It was about something far greater. The baby was the future of the Xiphorian Empire, the heir to a legacy that spanned centuries. And Ethan had been chosen in some strange twist of fate to be part of it. But there was more to it. Ethan had come to realize that the decision wasn't just about power or political alliances. It was about trust. Queen Vorta had trusted him with her child, with the future of her people. That trust weighed on him more than he could have ever anticipated. He didn't know if he was the right man for this responsibility. He didn't know if anyone could be. He spent countless hours in his quarters, staring out at the stars, reflecting on everything that had led him here. The life he had known as a diplomat, the simple goals of negotiation and peacekeeping, seemed so distant now. He had been thrown into a world of ancient politics, of power and sacrifice, of alliances and betrayals. It felt like he had no control, like the universe itself was pushing him toward this moment, forcing him to make a choice that would echo through the ages. Yet, despite the pressure, there was a part of him that still questioned if he could truly accept Queen Vorta's offer. Was it the right choice? Could he truly sacrifice his autonomy, his identity, for the sake of a greater good? Or would he be losing something precious, something that could never be regained? The call came sooner than he had expected. Queen Vorta's message appeared on his communicator, a direct summons to the royal chamber. The time had come. He couldn't delay any longer. The choice had to be made. With a heavy heart, Ethan straightened his uniform and made his way to the chamber where the Queen awaited him. The ship was silent as he walked, the hum of the engines the only sound that filled the air. Each step felt like it carried him further away from the life he had known, closer to something entirely unknown. When he arrived at the royal chamber, Queen Vorta was already waiting, standing by the large viewport that overlooked the stars. Her posture was regal, her expression unreadable. The baby was in her arms again, quiet and peaceful, its tiny body resting against her. There was something serene about the moment, and yet the weight of it all was palpable. Everything Ethan had been contemplating, every fear, every doubt, came rushing back to him. "I have made my decision," Ethan said, his voice steady despite the turmoil inside. He could feel the eyes of the galaxy on him. This was it. There was no turning back now. Queen Vorta turned to face him, her golden eyes intense, as if she were looking directly into his soul. "And what is your decision, Captain Hale?" Her voice was calm, but there was a hint of anticipation in it, as if she already knew the answer. Ethan took a deep breath, gathering his thoughts. The weight of this moment settled on his shoulders like a mountain. "I've spent the last few days thinking about everything. About the future of Earth, the future of the galaxy, and my place in all of this. I've thought about you, Queen Vorta, and what it means to be by your side." Queen Vorta's eyes softened, but she said nothing, waiting for him to continue. "I've come to understand that this isn't just about an alliance. It's about more than that, Ethan continued. It's about trust. You've trusted me with your child, with the future of your empire. And for that I am honored. But I've also come to realize that this is not just your future, it's mine too, it's the future of humanity. He paused, trying to find the right words. This wasn't just a political decision anymore, it was personal. I'm not sure if I'm the right man for this. I don't know if I can truly be the leader you're looking for. But I do know one thing, he said, his voice gaining strength. I can't let Earth miss this opportunity. I can't turn my back on the chance to secure a future for my people. I can't let fear stop me from doing what's right. Queen Vorta regarded him silently for a long moment, her gaze unwavering. Then she nodded slowly, as if she had been waiting for him to say those very words. You understand the cost, then, she said softly, almost as if to herself. The path we walk is not an easy one. It will require sacrifice and it will demand strength. But if you are willing to walk it with me, Captain Hale, then you will not walk alone. Ethan felt a strange sense of relief wash over him, though it was tempered by the weight of what he had just agreed to. I'm ready, he said quietly. I will stand by your side, for Earth, for the future. Queen Vorta smiled, the first genuine smile Ethan had seen from her. It wasn't a smile of victory or triumph, but one of understanding. You have made a wise choice, Captain. You will be more than just a consort. You will be my partner. Together, we will build a future for both our peoples. The Queen stepped forward, her presence commanding. She held out her hand to him, and Ethan took it without hesitation. There was no turning back now. His future had just been sealed. You have earned my respect, Captain Hale, Queen Vorta said, her voice low and filled with promise. And now you have my trust. Ethan nodded, his heart still racing, but he felt a sense of certainty that had been lacking before. This was the beginning of something new, not just for him, but for Earth and the Xiphorians. It would be a future that they would shape together, and though it would not be without its challenges, Ethan knew that he had made the right choice. In that moment, as they stood together, Ethan realized that this wasn't just a political alliance. It was a union of two worlds, two peoples, brought together by fate, by trust, and by the will to build a better future. As the stars outside the viewport stretched endlessly into the darkness of space, Ethan felt a sense of peace settle within him. The future was uncertain, yes, but for the first time in a long while, he wasn't afraid of what lay ahead. He was ready for whatever came next.